They are merely perceived as having a rather nervous disposition. The suffering behind their anxious eyes so often goes unseen. Princess Diana said this in her speech about women and mental health in 1993 at the Turning Points Conference. She spoke this June 1st, 1993, and it was at the Turning Points Conference in London. And Princess Diana is known as the People's Princess because everybody loved her so much. And she was a very important face in women's history. The background on Diana. She suffered with postnatal depression and bulimia and self-harm and also other mental illnesses, and this just like gives her more credibility because she has been through it and she knows what she's talking about, and she also very like openly talked about them, and which is very like controversial in the royal family, like against their norms. So they just, I don't know, they're trying to be more like put together, and people look up to them, and they have a belief that if people like think that like know that they have these issues, then people won't love them as much. But everybody loved Diana because she was different like that, and she was looked up to by many people. Significance of the speech, again, it went against the royal family norms. Along with like all of her other speeches, she was a very important speaker, and she spoke, again, very controversially, but that's why people loved her so much. She showed that women are normal people with normal feelings, and back then it also was very like stigmatized for everybody to have mental health issues because it was 1993 and there was less treatments and it was just less normalized. Here's a video.
Where do we begin? From those I have spoken to through my work with Turning Point, the beginning seems to be that women in our society are seen as the carers, the ones who can cope. Whatever life throws at them, they will always cope. On call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whether their children are sick, their husbands are out of work, or their parents are old and frail and need attending, they will cope. They will cook and clean, go out to work, attend to the needs of those around them, and they will cope. They may be suffering themselves from postnatal depression, violence in the home, or struggling in a daze of exhaustion and stress to make ends meet, but they will cope. Strangely, it is
There we go. Okay. Okay. Ethos, pathos, and logos. For ethos, she was obviously dressed very well, and knowing that she is the Princess of Wales, she was obviously looked up to, and people really liked her. She was also part of the royal family, who was also very, and it still is, very looked up to, and she appeared very confident and not nervous at all. For pathos, she really went into detail about the stereotypes of women and just like everybody in general, but mostly women, because they were so stigmatized. And then also again the stigmatization of everybody, and how during this time, and still today it is still an issue, but she talked about how it was less common for women to get treatment or get healthy treatment, if anything. And also she talked about women's importance in our society. Again, she repeated multiple times that they care for each other, and everybody has their mom, and a lot of people like their mom, so yeah, women are very important. And then for logo, in her speech, she mentioned that women are 3 times as likely than men to be diagnosed with a mental disorder. Yeah. For rhetorical devices, For a metaphor, she said, these pills, these mother's little helpers, have left a legacy of millions of women locked in terrible torment. And she was metaphorically speaking, like in comparing antidepressants to like mother's helpers. And then she also used a tricolon. Women in our society are seen as the carers, the ones who can cope. Parents are old and frail and need attending. They will cope, attend the needs of those around them, and they will cope. She repeats, and they will cope many times, and it was in the clip that I showed, so yeah. And then for a hyperbole, her biggest realization was that during those years, she had completely lost touch with her own identity. This was when she was talking about a friend of hers that had been prescribed tranquilizers for depression, and she was on them for like 30 years, and then when she got off of them, she was just not herself anymore. And then she used this to talk about how there was unhealthy coping mechanisms and how it was just, basically women would complain, and they would say, I'm depressed, I need help, and they would just give them medicine to make them more tolerable. Why will it endure? Again, women are 3 times as likely than men to be diagnosed, still today. And the stereotypes, it will, as long as everybody stops, if we stop stereotyping, which is still an issue today, then it will still endure. And then also, treat everyone fairly, that's what that's supposed to say. If we don't treat everybody fairly, then that's also, yeah. Thank you for listening to my speech.